G'day, welcome to Queensland Farmer. Today we're going to do a spring update. We're going to have a look and see what's been happening in the orchard, in the garden, and then we're going to harvest our pumpkins. Unlike last year, this year looks like it's going to be a good year for mangoes. You can see some tiny mangoes have formed on this tree, and at this rate we might be getting hundreds of mangoes off our trees this year. The orange trees are looking great, but as you can see, we appear to have a visitor who's coming in, taking the oranges off the tree, chewing some of it and leaving the rest behind. I expect this is probably a possum. This lovely tree is a lychee tree. As you can see, there's lots of blossom on this one too. We're expecting another good year. The choco vines are definitely grown since the last video. Just recently we've had something happen with these leaves. Not really sure what's happened there. Let's hope that it was isolated and the rest of the vine will grow well. The guava tree has plenty of guava on it. On camera they look like a pear, but these ones are pink inside. They certainly don't taste like a pear. Just behind it, you can see yet another mango tree. Lots of blossom. Well, here's some evidence that the birds have been here. This is half an eaten guava. You can see that there's pink flesh inside and those seeds. Lovely to see these mulberries coming out. There's plenty there to eat. No doubt I'll end up with purple lips once again. So here's some macadamia blossom. See, this tree's got plenty. They go from that through to these green seeds. So once they're ready to harvest, they turn brown, as you can see here, with that hard nut on the inside. And that's what the hard nut looks like. You crack that one open and there's a macadamia nut inside. Over the top of the tomatoes, we've got a 50% shade cloth. The sun can be pretty tough here in Queensland, and even though it's winter, these tomatoes respond really well to having some of that shade. You can see there's plenty of tomatoes on there. What we've found is if you remove these while they're still green, they're more likely to survive the birds. The birds are having a big feed here, as they often do in our garden and orchard. And here's some evidence that they've been working hard, having a feed. You might notice we've really just used what we had laying around to create an area for these tomatoes to grow on. In this area here, we're really just letting them grow where they grow. Our tomatoes have done well this year. This is just a sample of what we have collected. You might notice that we've taken them off the bushes green And that's because our local bandicoot and the birds have been picking them while they were green and eating parts of them and obviously killing them. What we'd read is that if you put them into a dark area and let them ripen naturally, they'll do that. Number of videos back, you may recall, we got 58 kilos of sweet potato. Now this is the garden bed we got it out of. We haven't planted any more sweet potato. We've really just relied on what was left behind in the beds. You see they're growing well. And of course, volunteer tomatoes have just sprung up. And I think we'll just leave that one there and hopefully we'll get some tomatoes from that one as well. And check out this rhubarb. It's starting to go red on those stems. And rhubarb pie is my favourite. Over there, there's another plant of rhubarb. And a couple of lettuce. A few videos back I talked about how we cut off one lettuce and we just left the roots behind and that they would grow another lettuce. So here's an example where you can get a 2-for-1 deal on lettuce. That's where the old one was. We slice that one off and this lettuce has grown from the same root and we get a free lettuce. And just like the lettuce, we did the same with the silver beet. This is our second crop of silver beet from the one plant. This is sugarloaf cabbage. And as you can see, it hasn't really grown well. We should probably redefine that as miniature sugarloaf cabbage. I think we've got some issues with the soil in this bed. We're missing nutrients or something. Anyway, we'll grow this out and see what we get, and then we'll figure out what has gone wrong for next time. These are our cucumbers. Just planted these. I'll give you further updates of this over the coming month or so. We've made sure that we mulched around it. Helps keep the weeds down, and as you've probably heard previously, also keeps that moisture content up and regulates the temperature in those beds. This again is our new bed of lettuce. Also mulched and under cover. Once again, the sun can be pretty brutal on these crops, so we want to make sure that we look after them and they get just enough to grow and not enough to burn. You may recall those native bees that I moved recently from out in the bush to near our vegetable garden. Well, we've put them quite close to where these flowers are, just to give them something to eat, keep them healthy and keep them interested in hanging around. Unfortunately, they're not here today, but we might catch them on a later video. Even with the natives around, we've got some honeybees also visiting, doing their bit. And now he's got camera shy. Here's some more lettuce and some beans at the back. We'll put a trellis in place for these beans once they get a bit bigger. They're looking good. This is a result of a volunteer pumpkin. It's been growing like this for quite some time. Today's the harvest day for at least some of them. So we'll just work through this garden bed and we'll get some of them out and we'll weigh those. Be interesting to see exactly how many we've got. When you are growing your pumpkins, if you're not sure whether or not they're ready to be picked, you have a look at the stem, and if the stem has died, that means they're okay to pick. Nice and easy, just to use some secateurs and just cut through them. There's one free pumpkin. Well, that's 9 that we've got, and a quick count, about another 14 or so at this stage. So here's one that isn't quite ready to pick. You see that there's still a bit of a greenish tone to that stem. They go from that size there to a little bit smaller. This one's hanging mid-air off a chili bush. Down to a bit smaller again. So this one here, and then smaller again, which is just behind the flower here. So I think we're going to have pumpkin until the cows come home. So speaking of the cows eat a lot of different things. They certainly love coming up beside where our garden is, and if we have surplus or if we have damaged food, they often will stick their heads over the side of the garden. They're just far enough away so they can't eat what we don't want them to, but they're more than happy to dive into a pumpkin, and they'll eat the whole thing, skin and all. They also love mangoes. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the walkthrough of the orchard and the garden this morning, and that you've seen the produce that you can grow in a home garden. When we have excess pumpkins, what we do is we peel them, we boil them, and then we mash them. And then when you put them in the freezer, and they'll last for up to 12 months. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.